Minecraft is one of my favorite games of all time, right next to Team Fortress 2, Apex Legends, and the Heatwave minigame from the DS version of Plants vs. Zombies. I have been playing the game for well over 10 years now, and during that time there's been a lot of different features added to the game, many of which are now core components of gameplay, whether loved or more controversial. But on the other hand, there's quite a few features that have become rather underrated and forgotten. In particular, there are a handful of these features that I personally find pretty underrated, so I thought I'd go ahead and share some of them, and explain why they're also some of my favorite components of the game. If you agree or disagree with any of the underrated features I'm going over today, or have your own favorites that I may or may not have talked about, let me know down in the comments. Anyway, let's get into it. So you know how in Minecraft there's a huge variety of different food options to choose from, letting you pick what foods you can eat your way out of starvation with? And remember how villagers are a good way of obtaining rare and valuable items relatively easily? What if I told you there's a way to do both of these things at the same time in a less efficient manner? Well, let me introduce you to fishing. See, this has been a game mechanic in Minecraft for ages, originating in Alpha 1.2.0, so it's one of the game's most long-running features, yet despite that, you'd be hard-pressed to hear anyone talk about fishing being an actual core part of their gameplay. In fact, apart from AFK fishing, if anyone even still does that, there's no straight-up crucial reason to fish. But if you're like me, fishing helps fill two very specific niches that nothing else in the game quite does. First, it provides me with something simple to do after big projects. When I'm done working on a build I've been envisioning for the longest time, I sometimes don't feel like jumping right into the next one. Sometimes I need something simple to do to help unwind. Sure, I could strip mine, which is another pretty basic form of gameplay, but that also requires you to be more aware of surrounding mobs in darker areas of caves and to actively look out for any and all ore types. But fishing only requires two simple things, your right mouse button and patience. Such a simple game mechanic lends itself quite well to a player like myself because sometimes the simplest gameplay loops scratch my brain in just the right way. Secondly, fishing is a beacon of randomness in a world of rigid, normally unchanging gameplay. See, when you mine a block, you'll know exactly what block you'll get, and when you kill a mob, you'll have a pretty good idea of what it might drop. You know what blocks are in which biomes, and you know what happens when you beat the game. Those are aspects of the game that usually never change. In other words, action A will yield item or action B. For fishing on the other hand, who knows what you'll get? You could fish up a cod, or you could fish up that mending book you really needed. There's so many different items from the fishing loot table that most of the time it's nearly impossible to predict what's at the end of that lure every single time. And that's the part of fishing I like the most, randomness. That simplicity of fishing I mentioned earlier complements nicely with the randomness that the same loot from fishing provides. Most importantly, it just gives you something different to do. Fishing is a unique gameplay experience not really seen anywhere else in the game, even if the gameplay is heavily on the simpler side. If you're not a huge fan of fishing in Minecraft, I'd give it another try if I were you, since who knows, you may have fun when fishing with this new outlook. I know I had just mentioned them a bit ago, but villagers are another feature of the game that I'd confidently consider underrated, and it's not for the reason you're thinking, or maybe it is. Wait, are you a mind reader? It's common knowledge that with the huge variety of different villager professions, they're able to provide you with nearly every important resource in the game. Tools, ender pearls, armor, enchanted books, name tags, the list goes on. So you might be asking yourself, why am I calling villagers underrated? Well, to answer that question, we need to ask the question, what are villagers? First and foremost, they're mobs that provide you with valuable loot. I mean, that much we already know. But the important thing to remember, which is also the main reason why I like them so much, is that villagers are the closest thing we have to other humans in the base game. See, if you're like me and play a lot of single player, it can get pretty lonely. I mean, you do have other mobs like dogs, cats, and the other passive mobs to sorta give you some company, but that'll only get you so far. Villagers take that role of mob that gives you company and kicks it up to 11, filling the Minecraft world with so much life simply due to their very existence. When you're out searching for a particular block or item, or just feel like exploring, coming across a village with all sorts of friendly inhabitants can help make you remember that you're not technically alone in your Minecraft world. Sure, you may be the only player if you're playing single player, but you're never the only intelligent being out there. Villagers are also super handy in making your builds come to life as well. Having a mod that can actually interact with something you've made, like a house, in ways such as opening doors, sleeping in beds, and interacting with workstations helps give some of your favorite projects so much more life and character, because at that point, you're not the only person making use of a build anymore. You've essentially given your project a higher purpose just by villagers being able to interact with them. That's why I enjoy villagers so much. Sure, their trades are pretty useful and something I capitalize on quite often, but I'm much more appreciative of the fact that they are villagers, members of a village or larger town or region. That's why in my hardcore world, my home base isn't some mega base or super intricate project I've worked on. It's a giant village with my home nested somewhere in the middle. I have villagers constantly roaming around my town, giving the whole region so much life. I've even named the majority of villagers in my town as well, giving them even more individuality and character than ever before. I've thrown in some iron golems around the town as well, further making the area seem much more inhabited. Essentially, my giant village is a place where villagers can roam freely, like a huge villager sanctuary. Okay, that sounds kinda weird, but the most important thing about villagers in my town is that they ultimately give me the biggest incentive to not die in hardcore, since if I do die, unless I go into spectator mode, they'll be gone in an instant as well if I delete the world. Them being able to live only because I myself am still alive in the world connects villagers to my every move that much more, giving me a huge purpose every time I log in to play. And that's the reason I see villagers as such underrated additions to Minecraft, not because of what they can provide you loot-wise, but because of what they provide you and your world characteristically, a breath of fresh life in a blocky world where the only other intelligent being is yourself. Just the finishing touch, and there we go, that looks nice. It's kinda hard to label paintings as underrated since they've been around forever and are essentially a staple decorative item. Heck, we just received 20 new paintings in the Tricky Trials update, so especially among the current player base, paintings are seen quite frequently throughout any player's build. But paintings themselves aren't what I consider underrated. It's certain characteristics and features of paintings that I'd give that title to. To me, the underrated nature of paintings falls under two different categories. The first is thematic paintings. You know, paintings that complement your build. Whenever I would use paintings in the past, I'd more than often use the paintings which were at the time my favorites. No other variety, just the 2 or 3 that I liked the most. But using specific paintings that accentuate the theme of your project or enhance its visuals subtly really feels underrated to me nowadays. The best example I can give is this bakery I built a while back. It's made of bricks, wood, and wool, and has an overall rustic theme to it. I had everything else in the build decorated, but I felt that this wall in particular just needed a bit more of something. And thanks to the Tricky Trials update, I found the perfect painting to use, the Baroque 2x2 painting. It has a cake, a sunflower, and a vase. It's literally the perfect painting for this project because the bakery sells sweets like cakes, is built in a sunflower biome, and showcases a vase to drive home that rustic vibe. Plus, the overall colors fit the color palette of this build quite well too. There seriously couldn't be a more perfect painting for a project like this. The second aspect of paintings I'd call underrated is the larger painting sizes, specifically the 4x4 paintings. And why not, let's throw in the newer paintings that are 3 blocks wide, since those finally fill in the niche decorative item to use in builds with odd-numbered dimensions. But getting back to those larger paintings, they really help in decorating those larger builds. Using another example of something I've built, my survival house here has large walls on the 2nd floor, and for the longest time, these walls just felt super flat. No, not that super flat, but I put down a couple of 4x4 paintings on either side, and they transformed these boring surfaces into something super interesting to look at. I even put signs below them with some names for the paintings, making them feel a bit more unique. I found that these larger paintings really tie my whole house's design together nicely. So while others may not see paintings quite as underrated as myself, I can confidently say that paintings thematic to your project and larger sized paintings may just go a bit less appreciated. But I'd recommend you try incorporating both of these painting styles in your next build to make it that much better. When you play Minecraft, each world or server you play on is unique. From going on single-player adventures at your own pace, to messing around with your friends on a private server, to practicing block palettes and build designs in creative, and even those faction servers you used to play on in 2013, each Minecraft experience is different, and with those unique experiences, whether fun or nostalgic, is something unique to each Minecraft world, a specific world seed. I mean, sure, they're essentially just the numerical value that represents what world generation you'll encounter during your playtime. But have you thought about how fascinating and underrated world seeds actually are? See, when you boot up a new world or go into a server, that world you're playing on is its own unique universe where it's mathematically impossible for any two worlds to generate the same seed randomly unless you intentionally choose a specific seed that you found online or something. So each block you pick up, every biome you travel through, and every house you've ever built in the game is unique to the world seed you did those things in. My hardcore survival world is a unique gameplay experience that no one else will ever have, since it's likely I'm placing blocks no one has or will ever collect, building projects in locations that have never been seen or explored by another player, and exploring and surviving in a world with a world seed that only I have ever been given. Every experience had in the game is unique for each player, and no two gameplay sessions will be 100% identical between two players. And that's the beauty of Minecraft's World Seed Generator. It provides players with truly unique gameplay since every environment a player interacts with is personal based on the terrain the world seed spits out. Individual worlds will always be unique from one another since we as players shape the very world around us, and the world around us shapes ourselves as well. The choices we make in-game, the houses we build, the animals we kill, the ores we mine, and even the emotions we feel in real time when playing Minecraft are all dictated by the world seed that we're given. So that's why Minecraft's astronomically different world seeds are what I would call the most underrated feature in the game. We've all played on countless worlds, servers, and lobbies throughout the years, and every time we joined one, we were placed in a unique universe that was equally as impossible as it was possible to generate. Thanks to world seeds, every player's world and experience in Minecraft has been shaped, sometimes for the better, and sometimes for the worse. But that's what makes world seeds so underrated. As players, our attitudes, experiences, and emotions towards the game have all been at the mercy of whatever world seed the game decides to hand us. So the next time you boot up your world or join your favorite server, just know that you and your world seed are special, since there's nothing quite like them out in the universe. Minecraft's various in-game features have helped make the gameplay experience interesting for all these years, and features in the future will only continue to do the same. But I personally believe that these underrated features are what help tie the game together, so I hope that they'll become a little more appreciated as time goes on. Let me know if you agree with any of these features I mentioned in the video, and let me know in the comments what features in Minecraft you'd consider underrated. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a like, and consider subscribing if you'd like to see some other content I've created. Anyway, I'm gonna go stare at some more of those larger paintings for a while, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.